Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast where today Toby and I are going to be doing a start, bench, sell, discussing some of the hottest topics and players in the Premier League right now. Toby, how have you found it, mate?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to give some maybe some controversial opinions, comments to tell us we're completely wrong, we don't know anything about football. And I'm excited maybe for us to finally disagree on some things, because I feel like over the last few episodes, whenever we do a ranking, whenever we do a combined 11 or something like that, we just end up agreeing, and it'd be fun, hopefully, to get some spice and get some good takes in here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. How about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. When I was thinking of the ones that I was going to post to you, I was really excited about it, but then I forgot the fact that you have some for me as well. So hopefully I don't come across like a little bit of a fool, but let's see how it goes. I'm going to be giving you a start, bench, sell first. Are you ready?
Nice. Yeah, let's get into it, mate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want you to rank these new strikers to the Premier League. So I want you to start, bench, sell Hugo Ekitike, Victor Gyokeres, and Nick Woltemade.
Oh, that's three big boys in stature and in price, I guess you could say as well. They've all had pretty solid starts to the season. I don't think any of them have blown any expectations or teams out of the water, I wouldn't say. I think they've all got around 2 or 3 goals in the Prem. Ooh, that is a because I think I know who I'm going to put in sell, and it might be controversial. I think it's going to start an argument anyway straight off the bat, and I think I might put Ekitike in sell,
Really?
which is crazy.
Wow. Okay. Why him in sell over the other two?
The other two, it's less Ekitike going at the bottom and more the other two going above them. One, because I'm a biased Arsenal fan and I really like Victor Gyokeres, and I think given his goal scoring record, it completely blows the other two out the water in terms of goals. And I actually recently I've been really impressed with Gyokeres as hold-up player. I think it's actually a lot better than maybe I expected. And Woltemade, I just think is really fun. I think he's such a weird player. He's 6'6", and he's techie and skillful and really good at hold up and dropping deep. And I just think he's really fun to watch, really. So I think that might be my list just decided there. I think I'm going to go start Gyökeres, bench Woltemade, and sell Ekitike, which, yeah, is maybe not getting me off to a good start in terms of a little bit controversial, maybe.
Yeah, do you know what? I definitely did not expect that, because I thought you were going to put Woltemade bottom, if I'm being completely honest, because I'm not asking you what their form is at the start of the season. I'm asking what you think of them as players overall throughout their entire career. And I think Woltemade is actually the same age as Ekitike. They're both 23. But because his rise to prominence has only really been his last season at Stuttgart, that I would have thought that maybe it hasn't been enough. Whereas Gyökeres, we have known for a little while, obviously did fantastically well at Coventry in the Championship, 21 goals I think it was, and then 29 at Sporting, and then 39 in the second season before Arsenal. And I think with Ekitike, because he went to PSG, it didn't quite work out. He then obviously joined Frankfurt and then had his loan spell for the second half of the first half of 2024, but the second half of the 23-24 season, and then his season last year, where he ended up getting 15 goals with an XG of 21.6, so underperforming as well. I thought for sure you were going to put Woltemade last. I'm not surprised by the fact
it's pretty close between the two. I would say they're pretty close, Woltemade and Ekitike, and probably Ekitike is he's at Liverpool and he started the season so well, so maybe he is the slightly better player. But going off not just player and going off a little bit of vibes as well, I just like Woltemade.
That's fair enough. If I told you, though, that, because obviously I've researched this, you haven't, I'm giving you this off the cuff. I mean, the fact that Gyökeres has only scored 3 goals in 9 games in all comps, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, he's averaging a goal every 220 minutes at the moment. It's not great, but obviously Arsenal have had tough fixtures. And I think with Arsenal as well, the expectation is different with Ekitike and Woltemade because of the fact that he's coming in to be the striker to help Arsenal get over the line and win the Premier League. 4 years older than the other two as well. He's the main man now at Arsenal. Do you think that have you been slightly disappointed he hasn't scored more goals than 3, even though it's still early in his Arsenal career?
I would be lying if I said no. I think in some of the games he actually maybe should have taken his chances a little bit better. I think the Olympiacos game, especially this week, was one where I think he had another number of good chances and just unfortunately didn't take them. And I think that match sharpness maybe just isn't there yet. He seems a little hesitant and taking an extra touch sometimes when he doesn't need to. When I think he maybe, it sounds crazy that he needs a little bit more confidence given the amount of goals that he has scored in the last few seasons, but I think, yeah, just a little bit more confidence to get that shot off because he's got such a good strike on him that I think he probably should have scored 1-2 goals, maybe more this season.
Okay.
Especially like the expectations of him coming into Arsenal, I suppose.
Okay, but you're going to still put Gyökeres first and Woltemade second, Ekitike third.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I think I like it. It's fun.
Okay, sure. So obviously my list would have been, I would have had Ekitike top, Gyökeres second, and Woltemade third. I think for yes, maybe biased Liverpool fan, I can hear you chuckling away. I think for me, I've been so surprised at how good Ekitike has been. I thought he was one, but come from the Bundesliga, he might have struggled getting used to the physicality of the Premier League and coming up against centre backs who are going to be more physical with him. But actually, I think his holder play, his ability to drop in deep and link up play has been really impressed me and much better than I thought it was. And I think also, because everyone's been talking about Isak and the record fee that Liverpool have paid for him, that actually Ekitike stepped up and actually performed way better. And almost, you're now thinking to yourself, is Ekitike, for right now at least, going to be the main number 9? It's only until Galatasaray midweek in the Champions League where when they played together and Isak was up top and Ekitike did move out to the left. But 5 goals and 1 assist so far for 23. I'm maybe thinking about the potential, and I'm like, what player is he going to be in 4 years' time at the same age as Gyökeres? But I need to maybe consider now. But Bundesliga versus the Portuguese league, you can maybe make that argument if you want, but I think I'd have to go Ekitike, Gyökeres, Woltemade. If I were to put it that way, would you have any complaints? Can you see where I'm coming from as well?
Yeah, I can. I definitely can. I definitely don't think Ekitike is going to be Liverpool's starting striker. I think if we look back at this in 2 months' time, Isak is going to be the starting striker. I mean, you can't spend 150 million on a player, and even if Ekitike is playing well, not play him. And Ekitike is more a versatile player, and if Ekitike is playing well, I think he'll play off the left and push Gakpo out the squad, as opposed to keeping Isak out. Yeah, I think the board will be very unhappy with the money they've spent if Isak's not starting. Yeah, so based on that expectation alone, even if Isak's struggling, he'll definitely start.
I think the biggest headline out of all this is the fact that you put Woltemade ahead of Ekitike. I'm not sure.
Woltemade, just watch him play. I just think he's so fun to watch, and he's just like, I don't think I've ever seen a player like him before. It's really strange, and I think he's not too dissimilar to how Isak can play in terms of dropping in and picking up the ball and driving with it forwards, which I think is really key for Newcastle and was key for them last season, and something that maybe they missed in those first sort of 3 or 4 games of the season. I think he's going to have a really, really good season for Woltemade. He's played well so far.
I don't actually think he's got the pace, though, to be a great penetrative threat behind. And he may not need that in Newcastle when you got, I don't know, the likes of Gordon, Barnes, Murphy, Elanga. And so probably link up play and just being that focal point at the end of the attack might be the perfect role for him. But the fact that, I mean, he got 12 goals last season and Ekitike got 15 in the Bundesliga. He was playing for Stuttgart, who only created an XG of 10.2 for him. So he did well. Now, I'm not sure. I'm definitely going Ekitike. I'm going Ekitike, Gyökeres, and Woltemade. But there we go. And obviously, we're not going to have a winner. The comments, you're going to have to let us know what you guys think. Should we move on to the next one then? Have you got one for me then?
Yes, let's get into the next one. Other end of the pitch, this one, I have gone for right backs. And I've gone for Joelinton, Reece James, and Pedro Porro.
Okay. So straight off the bat, I'm going to say that Joelinton is top. I have seen some people talking about it recently, and I am happy that they are, because I completely agree with the fact that I think Joelinton is one of the best right backs in world football at the moment, and I think arguably he's the best defensive right back in the Premier League. the way that I see him shut down attackers he's up against constantly on a week in, week out basis is absolutely incredible. I think as a one-on-one defender, he's excellent as well. And the fact that he can also play across that entire back line, and even he could play a left back and still do a really good job. I think for me, he's definitely number one. In terms of James and Porro, they both definitely provide a lot more in attack than Timber. And I think that it's maybe a little bit underplayed, the fact that Timber is all defensive and not attack at all. I think if I'm being honest though, I think that I want both attack and defense, and I think Reece James is probably the perfect balance out of all three of those. So I'm going to put James second, and I'm going to put Pedro Porro third, because I think attacking, he is fantastic. I mean, some of the crosses and balls he can put in are out of this world, but I just think defensively he is a little bit of a liability, and I would always hope to have a right centre back who's better than good defensively, who can cover that space that he leaves in behind. So yeah, I'm going to go early. I'm going to go Timber, start. I'm going to go bench Reece James, and then I'm going to sell Pedro Porro.
Yeah, James and Porro is an interesting one, isn't it? Because they're both very good attacking, but I think when you watch them and even when you look at the stats as well, it's like James is good attacking more sort of centrally and more sort of like a midfield player, a fullback you'd more sort of see inverting, whereas Pedro Porro is like, his attacking is almost like a striker or a winger. Like, it's goals, assists, shot creating actions, which for European fullbacks, he's like top 10% for basically all attacking categories. Whereas Reece James is sort of top 5% in terms of like passing metrics, like his pass completion, progressive passes, and like his aerials. So they're both very good attacking fullbacks, but in quite different ways. And I think, like you said, maybe James's attributes, attacking and defensively, is more fit to a traditional fullback, whereas Porro is verging on a winger at times, really, isn't he?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think under Ange Postecoglou last season, he was all over the place. I mean, there's one game that stands out. I can't remember exactly the opponents, but he was pressing the right back, and he's the other right back. And I'm like, where are you going? What are you doing? How have you ended up in this position? And I don't even think he won the ball in the end, which is the thing that was most frustrating. Either win the ball back or commit a foul and run back into your position. You cannot leave that much space. And I've been thinking that was Ange Postecoglou's Spurs team last season. I think maybe the Reece James injury and the multiple injuries that he has had has maybe made him more of an intelligent player. So he's got to really be careful and choose when he goes forward, because he knows he won't be able necessarily to sprint back all the time. And I think that's actually made him a better player. That's allowed him to also play midfield at times. And I think that intelligence is sometimes very underrated in the football player, because you think of, oh, he's a great athlete and the Premier League is really intense at the moment. Players can bomb up and down. But actually, to know that you don't have to, because you're always in the right place at the right time, I think that's something that Reece James is doing a lot better now. He's not always getting it perfect. Case in point, the Man United game away, where I think he was caught out of position a couple of times, especially for the lead up to the goals. But I think, yeah, I'm definitely putting Timber first. I think Timber's in the case for one of the best right backs in the world at the moment. I've got to now try and think of other great right backs at the moment to try and compare him to. I think Carvajal.
Hakimi is probably top, isn't he? Really?
Hakimi, yeah, 100%.
In terms of right backs, yeah, he's almost in a bit of a league of his own at the moment, given the last sort of year and a half.
Yeah, it's weird though, because it's like, who would be up there? If I'm maybe saying Hakimi, Carvajal pre-ACL. I think he was fantastic for going forward and back. Yeah. I've been impressed with
Koundé would probably be up there as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you could make an argument he's top 3 at the moment. Yeah. So, did you have anything different than Timber, James, and Porro, or do you actually agree with me?
I would agree with you, but I think it's really, really close. If it's based on form, I would definitely go for that order. I don't know whether you can sort of include James's injury record. His form recently hasn't been as good as, I don't think he's been at his peak for a long time now, which is such a shame, because a lot of that is down to injury. But maybe,
is that not? Sorry to interrupt, but is that not a credit to how good he is? The fact that he's not necessarily his best, but he's still really, really good.
Yeah. No, it definitely is, and I think that's a massive thing. And when you look at sort of players' injuries and you see how they are when they get back, that's the biggest tell as opposed to how much they get injured. But if this was looking at it from like a club standpoint, for example, would you be looking at James, who's maybe not going to reach the potential that he was potentially earlier in his career? And would that be somebody you would sell if you're looking at that sort of keep bench sell thing of it? But I think the way that we do it in terms of ranking, I would rather have a fit Reece James in my team for a season than probably Pedro Porro. So yeah, I would have the same order as you.
Okay, nice. And that is the way you were asking the question, isn't it? It's based on who I would have in my team. So
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
I think you get a fair decent whack from Pedro Porro as well. I think Reece
Definitely.
James, maybe with the injury issues, you couldn't sell him from as much,
Yeah.
and you want to keep Timber. You want to keep and you want to start. Yeah, start Timber, bench James, and sell Pedro Porro. Do you want your next one?
Yeah, let's get into it, mate.
Okay, so the international break is coming up. At the time of recording, I don't know who Thomas Tuchel has picked in his England squad. But I was thinking around the positions, and one of the positions that I've always struggling with is left wing. So Toby, at the World Cup, I want to know whether you would start, bench, or sell at left wing Rashford, Gordon, or Eze.
That is a tasty three right there. Oh, that's
Yeah,
really
with a little
difficult.
stipulation as well.
Yeah, because that is difficult as well with it being England, that it's not just how the players are playing at the moment, how well they play for their clubs, because international football is so different to club football. And I think maybe that is a good point for Rashford, who he has started really well with Barcelona, but somebody who maybe hasn't had particularly good form the last 2 years, but does always seem to play pretty well for England recently off the bench a lot. But when he does, he's made a really big impact. Gordon feels like the one that should be top, and I think probably should be England's left winger going forward. I think if you're looking longevity, Eze maybe could be the best player of the three at the moment. But if we're talking purely left wing as well, then that also throws up question marks for Eze. So that is a really, really tough one.
So I'll let you know that I don't actually have too many stats for this one because I did think with England, it is sometimes a bit of a personal preference of how you want England to go about playing, what opposition you think they're going to come up against, and this is a hypothetical that we're not going to know until a few months down the line. But I think this is just a vibes pick. Honestly, I think it's who you would want in your England left wing position. And I don't want to reveal just yet because I've thought about this. But do you have any idea of like any of the three? Which ones?
Yeah, I think I've just made my mind up in when you were talking there, and I think I would start Gordon. I think he probably should be England's left winger going forward. I would have Rashford on the bench, who I think is somebody who has made an impact for England and can make an impact more for England. And I would go for Sell for Eze. I think he is the least natural left winger of the three. And I'm not sure. I think he would be much better for England more centrally, as opposed to being on that left wing. So, yeah. And I would have Rashford in that bench position over Eze because I feel like Rashford is the sort of player you want off the bench, and I think probably would make more impact for England over Eze. And I love Eze. I think he's great, and I think he'd do great for Arsenal and would be great in the England squad. But purely left wing, yeah, that's my three.
Wow, that is. So the one I do agree with you on is Marcus Rashford off the bench. I remember watching the Newcastle Barcelona game in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that he didn't have a great game, but what he did produce was moments in that game, match-winning moments. And I think to have that sub-player of that quality to bring off the bench for England, I think if he keeps it up between now and the World Cup, which we won't know really, but if he does, I think that'd be vital and a crucial key to helping England hopefully winning the World Cup. I would have Eze and Gordon the other way around. I would be starting Eze and I would be selling Gordon. I think for me, because England are probably going to be going into the tournament as one of the favourites, as the ones who are going to be keeping the ball, and the other team, especially in the heat of the USA, Mexico and Canada, which we just saw in the Club World Cup this summer, that I think that teams are going to be sitting in a mid to low block. And then we're going to need a player like Eze who can help unlock a team. And I think he's not going to be playing in that midfield with the likes of Bellingham, Palmer, Foden, whoever else, that I think that he probably is the best option on the left-hand side. And then when a game changes in the second half to when you got tired legs in the opposition to when there's a bit more space opening up, then you can bring on Rashford. I am really surprised you decided not to start Eze. I thought it was certain you're going to be starting or at least benching him. The fact that you're selling him, you sure?
That's the thing with Eze. I think like you've mentioned a name there of somebody who is one of England's best players and is fantastic centrally, and that's Phil Foden. I think we saw how that worked when he was playing on the left wing, and it just didn't. And I know Foden is more of an actually would be better on the right, probably more than the left. But I think even if Foden was playing on the right, it just still wouldn't work for England. And I think it's something that we have wanted for a while for England, is to have wingers who are wingers as opposed to sort of playing place slightly. Not that Eze's playing out of position on the left wing. I just personally I see him more as that sort of left-sided midfielder if you're playing like a 4-3-3, I would say. And Gordon is probably the best out-and-out winger of those three, I would say. I think Gordon is really, really good.
Yeah, he is definitely the most out-and-out winger. Would you want to chance fall into him over Eze or Rashford? I don't know. It feels a bit harsh to say that because obviously he's younger than both of those other players as well who, if I think I'm right in saying, Gordon's 24 and Rashford and Eze are both 27. And obviously they've had the pressure of going to multiple major tournaments. Rashford in this case, getting some heavy criticism as well. So they would have learned from that, made them better players. Starting Gordon though, I do know what you mean. There was a period of time where I thought, yeah, Gordon's the one that's got to start. However, I think it might be a bit of recency bias, but he's definitely gone off the boil a little bit. I know he scored a couple of goals in the Champions League, but I can't even remember now. Were they both penalties he scored? Yeah, that
they were. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to maybe agree to disagree on this one because at the moment I'm not sure Gordon provides much apart from pace in behind, which Rashford could do, and I think he will do if he's playing for England. And I think if, depending on the right, it could be Saka, could be Madueke. I think they could also do that. And if you're coming up against a low block, is Gordon going to be the best alternative? I mean, if you're coming up against Spain or someone like we did in the Euros, maybe Gordon's pacing behind would be invaluable. But I think for most games, I don't actually think so. Yeah, you're going to stick with your choice.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that, and let's agree to disagree and move on to the next one, because we're going to be here for hours otherwise. we're disagreeing too much. We've gone the opposite way now, Mev. Well, come on.
Okay, go on.
Right, so your second start bench sell is going to be some hard men midfielder, some big tacklers, and I've given you Joelinton of Newcastle, Xhaka of Sunderland, and Paulinha currently of Spurs.
Okay, so how am I doing the start bench sell? Is it in terms of the quality of the player?
Overall, as a player, if you want a defensive midfielder in your team, who do you want?
Oh my god. Okay.
All very different players, aren't they? All very different.
They are. They are. But I like the fact that you've linked them with them being hard men. Have you got any stats on them? Because I might need a minute to think about this.
Yeah. I'll read them off. I'll read them off as you have to think. Yeah. So Joelinton, unbelievably good dual winning numbers. Super high. One of the highest in the league for the last 2 seasons. And a surprising stat for him as well. Top 4% for European midfielders for attacking penalty area touches. Crazy. So he's not just sitting back and winning those duels, he's getting forward as well. Xhaka, 3 assists in the Prem so far already this season, which puts him second on the assists table. Switzerland captain, really good progressive passes numbers, and is that quarterback for Sunderland and for Switzerland. And then João Paulinha, the tackle monster, 5th most tackles and interceptions in the Prem this season, and top 1% for European midfielders for tackles. So yeah, all good stats, but it's now down to you, Mev. The stats are done. What are you saying?
Yeah, as you're speaking there and talking about Joelinton, all I could think of was he's just a Brazilian Fellaini. That's all I could think of.
Is that a bad thing?
I know
Fellaini, man. What a player, what a throwback, yeah.
Absolutely not a bad thing. I know for a fact that I want to put Granit Xhaka as my number one. I think, Newcastle fans will hate me because I put Woltemade third. I put Anthony Gordon third. And
Just
now
don't put
I'm
Joelinton
putting
last.
Xhaka. Yeah. And I'm putting a Sunderland man ahead of him as well. Okay. I'm going to go Xhaka with number one because I think he's got something different to the other three, and I think that's quality on the ball, which they all three of them do have. I think Joelinton, he sometimes gets generalized as a bit of a bruiser, but he is more than that as well. Paulinha just, stereotypical as a destroyer, but he also scored that brilliant goal against Wolves on, I think it was the last Premier League game that Spurs played. But I think Xhaka on the ball, I think he is the best. I think what he's able to do, especially in the Sunderland side at the moment, which I was very excited about the fact he joined Sunderland, but wasn't necessarily sure how it's going to work. But the fact that he's able to anchor that midfield, play the deepest role, sometimes in the 2, sometimes in the 1, depending on who's playing alongside him. But with young players, likes of Diarra, likes of Chris Rigg, and the fact that he's been able to bring them together and then orchestrate that entire Sunderland team with multiple new players. I mean, most of those midfielders weren't even there at Sunderland last season. And I think his ability on the ball, I think it's something like he's got 3 assists, and those 3 assists have come at crucial points and have been game-changing goals, which has led to Sunderland getting an extra 7 points, I think it is. I think Xhaka's ability on the ball is what differentiates him from Joelinton and Paulinha, and the fact that he can also do that defensive side as well. So he's number 1 for me. It's just if I want to put Joelinton or Paulinha number 2. I have a soft spot for Joelinton.
You know what? So
I'm going to put Joelinton too.
No, I love Joelinton. He's so good.
But it feels harsh on Paulinha. I just love the energy that Joelinton exuberates on the football pitch and how that translates to the rest of his team. I hate it when he's playing against Liverpool. Absolutely hate him. But I love watching him when he's not playing against my team, because I think that everyone needs at least one of him in your team. And I don't have any stats or anything. I think it is just a personal preference. I'd rather have... Well, Joelinton's further forward than Paulinha, but I'm going to start Xhaka, I'm going to bench Joelinton, and I'm going to sell Paulinha. Did you have any thoughts on what you would do?
We've got an agreement, Mev. We're all sorted. We're fine. We don't need to. Okay. We don't need to debate. We don't need to discuss. I agree with you, and I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think Paulinha does what he does fantastically well, and is one of like the top ball winners, you would say, in the Premier League. But I just think Joelinton gives you that little bit more in terms of maybe a little bit more all-round game. Like you said, he plays really more as an 8 and is great driving the ball forward. And whereas Paulinha, I think if you had him in the midfield, you'd probably have to have some more energetic, creative players around him, really, just to sort of fit and get you moving a little bit further forward. But yeah, Paulinha is still a great player as well. That's the thing with all these categories, isn't it? I think every player that we're putting in sale is still a fantastic player, so it's always tough, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that Paulinha, just because we talk about how great he is off the ball in defensive numbers, I don't think that should take away from the fact that he is still a decent ball player. But I just think that when he went to Bayern Munich, he didn't play that often, and he wasn't quite suited because Bayern Munich had the ball all the time, and so he wasn't as great with the ball, and also he didn't need to do what he excelled in. Whereas I think maybe, we've seen Xhaka win a league with Bayer Leverkusen, play incredibly well with the possession-based side, and Joelinton, who I think can play with the ball at his feet and is quite underrated at that. He's not just a bruiser. So yeah, Xhaka first, Joelinton second, Paulinha third. Should we move on then?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, so is this your second one? Is this only your second one?
This is my third one you're giving me now.
Your third one. Okay. Let's go for... Oh, okay. I think this might be a meaty one. So let's go for this one now. And let's see how much time we have at the end. It's not players. It's managers. And because we're talking about Ruben Amorim at Manchester United, and if he's potentially going to get the sack or not, I want you to rank in terms of start, bench, sell. It doesn't quite work, but also it kind of does with these managers as potential replacements for Ruben at Manchester United. Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace, Xavi Hernandez currently unemployed, and Gareth Southgate currently also unemployed. But those three, when I looked, were the most frequent managers who came up on the bookies. Thoughts?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good list. You've got Glasner, who plays a very similar system to Amorim, and one that Man United fans aren't really a fan of at the moment. But he's doing it much more successfully, for sure. You've got Gareth Southgate, who had good success with England. Unfortunately, couldn't get them over the line, but I think was great at taking England from really poor performances and getting them back in the conversation, which is maybe something United could do with. And then you've got Xavi, who's only ever really had that stint at Barcelona. He did win the league with them. They seem to be playing well. And then the season after, a little bit of a drop, and he got the sack. Ooh. I think I'm going to go sell Xavi Hernandez. I just don't think that's the right sort of fit for United, and maybe he just doesn't really have enough experience. He's been out of management for a while, and I feel like that is maybe the Manchester United appointment you would have got a few years ago, where they just wanted a name and to bring some hype to the club, and I don't think that's what they need at the moment. The other two are really interesting ones, and I'm not sure on them. I'd like to hear what you've got to say about these.
So I'll let you know I did not have Xavi Hernandez in last, because of the fact that he still did win a league with Barcelona. And as I say it, I'm wincing because I'm like, it is Barcelona. You are one of the two favourites. You should be attempting to win the league every single season that you're there. He was there for, 2.5 years it was. He joined in November of 2021 and then got sacked at the end of the 23-24 season. He had a win ratio, points per game ratio of 2.07, which is good. And obviously, Man United would 100% take that. I think the issue comes is because Man United have so many different managers, you don't actually know what's going to work anymore. And you can't say, this is definitely going to work. You can't take anything for granted anymore. I think one thing that having Xavi would allow you to do is buy you some time, because I think he is a name as a player and as a manager. Whereas I think Gareth Southgate would get eaten alive at Manchester United, even though I think that he could do a good job. So I actually had Xavi Hernandez in second, and I had Southgate last.
So you've gone Glasner for keep.
None of them are perfect. Absolutely none of them are perfect. And the issue with Glasner, more than, for me anyway, more than his system, is the fact that if he brings his system to Manchester United, that's 2 consecutive managers they're playing 3 at the back with. Is this now the Man United way? Is their philosophy? Is that what they're going to be doing going forward? At least now, if you want to change to pivot to a manager who's got 4 at the back, at least do it now while you've only committed to a manager for 12 months and one summer and January transfer window. Because if you go another manager with 3 in the back, that's a big step forward into this 3 at the back is who we are, without trying to sound too much like Ant Postecoglou. So yeah, I think Glasner's the best manager out of those 3 and would do the best job. But I think in terms of the philosophy of Manchester United, it might be a mistake. Have you had more time to think now about what you would do?
Yeah, I think that was a good point about having the same system, but I'm just not sure how much of a better manager Glasner is to Amorim. I think Glasner is definitely a better manager in England. I don't think there's any debate on that, obviously winning the FA Cup with Palace and performing so well with them. But I think when you look at what Amorim has done with Sporting, and you can say, oh, it's the Portuguese league, blah, blah, blah. But Sporting was so out of the conversation in titles and cups before Amorim joined that he got them back into the picture. And the first league title that they won was massive for Sporting. It was so, so big, and that's why he's so appreciated there as such a fantastic manager. I would go on that instance that I'm not sure if Glasner would be able to improve the much. I would go Glasner for bench. And I would just say, you've tried so much already, Man United. Just give Southgate a go, just to see it. And I'd go for keep for Southgate. I think he could do a job there, and I think they kind of just need like a rebuild, and maybe he's the man to do that for a year or 2. Get a bit of morale up, just get things back to basics as well, maybe, which I think is something that he did really well with England. And sort of stripping things back and not overcomplicating things. And it would be fun, at least. So I'm going to go Southgate keep, just for it could go it could go even worse, or it could go good. Glasner, I'm not sure how much change that would actually cause, and Xavi just doesn't quite feel like the right fit for the manager or for the club at this time. But that again, like we say with everything, Xavi is certainly not a bad manager. I just don't think it's the right fit, really.
No, both Southgate and Xavi have both been out of a job for a while now, and the longer it goes on, the more you kind of worry about why haven't they found another job? What's putting clubs off at the moment? Yeah, I think it has to be Glasner. I think Glasner done so well at Crystal Palace. That out of these three, anyway. I mean, there are far more managers in the mix of rumored to be up for talks in the Man United job if Ruben Amorim was to be sacked. But I think it had to be Glasner based on what Man United haven't done so far, which is go for a Premier League manager at a lower club and then take over a Man United because of the fact that everyone else has been a big name coming or former player or a manager from abroad. I think it would be Glasner. I think Southgate would get eaten alive. I'm not sure Southgate would. With the media scrutiny on Man United, I'm not sure he'd even make the end of the season if he had a similar run to the one that Ruben Amorim had. But at least Xavi's a name which would give him at least till the end of the season if they were to sack him now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree on that one. But Southgate needs to get a job somewhere because I think he is good enough. But yeah, that's fair enough. Should we move on to the next one? Have you got something for me?
Yep, another one coming your way, Mev, and it's another defensive one I've gone for, and this time as opposed to right backs, it is left-sided centre backs. I have gone for Murrilo of Nottingham Forest, Mickey van der Ven of Spurs, and Mark Guehi of Crystal Palace.
Oh, that is tough. We've spoken on the podcast for a long time. We love them all. We do love them all.
They're all good. They're all top players.
Yeah. I would say that... Are you asking me what I think of them as players right now?
Yeah. Well, I suppose not. It's a combination, isn't it? A form of last season. I think you can go back as far as like last season, this season.
Okay.
If you were making a team, who would you have in that left centre back? Who would you have on that left centre back side?
It depends on the other players and which team I'm managing.
True.
I don't think there's a right answer. I think I would say that Mark Guehi is the start though, because of the fact that he's been ever present, which is something I'm worried about with Mickey van der Ven. I think he is also the best defensively out of all three of them. I think that he's got the all-round attributes, whereas I think perhaps so far for what I've seen from Murrilo, he's great with that with on the ball and in possession. He's great at that long diagonal out to winger. But in terms of passing through the lines, I think he can do it, but we haven't seen it often enough with Nottingham Forest, especially under Noonan last season. And this season, hopefully we'll see it more, but he's injured at the moment, so we'll have to see how that evolves with Ant Postecoglou. I think defensively, Murilla's great though, but I think he's just as good defensively as Mark Guehi could be. And with Mickey van der Ven, I think he is fantastic on the ball, and he is good defensively. So what argument am I trying to make? I think Mark Guehi is the best out of all of them. I think that I would be starting Mark Guehi. I'll be benching Mickey van der Ven. So with him only having to come on, he wouldn't be getting injured with his hamstrings all the time. And I would be selling Murrilo just based on the fact that I need to see Murrilo in a more possession-based style of football. And if he's as good on the ball as I think he is, but isn't demonstrating on a regular basis because of the team he's playing for, and I think he could do in the future moving up to another team. Nottingham Forest fans won't like that, but eventually he will because I think he's that quality. But at the moment, I'm going to go Guehi, start Guehi, bench Mickey van der Ven, and sell Murrilo. Help me out, mate. What are your thoughts?
I'm gutted. I love Murrilo. He's so good. I think this has also just made me realise that I think I just watch a player once and they look fun, like Murrilo shooting from like 40 yards, and I just think they're the best player in the league. So I'm definitely like biased in that weird sense. But Murrilo is part of one of the best defences in the league last season, coming in from Corinthians, and I think the reaction of the Corinthians fans spoke volumes about the player that he was when he joined Nottingham Forest.
You know a lot of Corinthian fans, do you?
A lot on like Reddit and like the Forest Reddit. I remember seeing it and people saying like, you've got a player on your hands there. But then you've got Van der Ven and Guehi, who are top players. I would agree with you that Guehi's probably the best all-rounder. And if you're looking at it in that sense, he probably would be top. Oh, I'm stuck on this one. I don't know. I think you made a decision quicker than I did, and I've known about this one since I started doing it. So
Yeah, I think it's hard with Mickey van de Ven because if he wasn't so injured, I think we'd be talking about like one of the best centre back partnerships in with him and Romero. And I think we all see the fact that it's a very good partnership with the potential to be elite. But with the not fit enough and play regularly enough and in the big games often enough for us to make a judgment on that. I mean, I think Romero is still the number one centre back at Spurs, and that's not because he's got the captaincy. I think he's also a leader in that back line, which I think you can add to Mark Guehi as something that he does have. And I think Mickey van de Ven needs to try and make sure he's the one in that centre back partnership and not, the partner alongside Romero. And then I can go like, okay, yeah. But also Mark Guehi is arguably at this moment in time England's best centre back. I don't think you can underestimate that considering the fact that he's going to be part of the spine in that England World Cup team. I'm trying to talk myself into my decision more often, but I think Murrilo in time we're going to see. But I still think that all of them are so young. All of them are still under 25. Is that right?
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. I would probably agree with your list, actually, I think. It makes sense in terms of Gay stuff and then bench Murrilo still, but with a caveat that Murrilo is very young, very good, and is still probably really underrated as well. And I think with Murrilo as well, because he's only like, is he 5'11", 6 foot? Maybe that's a negative you could put for him as well, especially in the Prem.
Yeah, that's true. But I think nowadays, I think it's more about rather than height, is how you use it. And I think I saw something that Mark Guehi's similar height, and he won more defensive headers than Gabriel last season in the Premier League. And I thought to myself, what the hell's going on there? But yeah, I think if as long as he wins a high percentage of his duels, I think he'll be fine. Is that it? We're moving on?
Yep. Next one for me, okay, please.
So, I want you to rank these attacking midfielders based on their start of the season. Who has the best start of the season? So, start Benzel, Bruno Fernandes, Florian Wirtz, and Morgan Rogers. It's a stink-off.
Ooh, it is a stink-off. And if it's based purely on their start to the season, that completely changes things. I don't think Bruno Fernandes has been bad at the start of the season. I don't think Man United have been great, but I think Fernandes has probably been one of their better players. And maybe just saying that, and the fact he's still been on the score sheet, I think he is one of the players who is sort of not carrying the team, but sort of picking them up when needed. So I think maybe Fernandes is actually an easy start there, straight off the bat, in terms of start to the season. Wirtz and Rogers. Wirtz is the narrative at the moment, really, that he's had a poor start, considering his price tag, the expectations, the quality of player that he is. Whereas Rogers was maybe a little bit of a surprise package and a hidden gem last year. So maybe it's less eyes on his performances this season, but certainly Villa as a whole haven't delivered, whereas opposed to Liverpool with Wirtz. That's a tough one.
So you're starting Fernandes then, are you?
Yeah, I think that's an easy start for me. The other way, how have you found Wirtz's start to his Liverpool career as a fan?
So I think the narrative has some truth to it that he hasn't had a great start to the season. I think that he's sometimes a bit slow on the ball and moving with the ball, and he's maybe not anticipating the intensity of the Premier League that someone's going to be on him so quickly. But they are, and I think he's learning that and he's getting used to it. I think the game midweek against Galatasaray in the Champions League, he looked really good in everything on the ball, but he just wasn't getting the ball out of his feet quickly enough to get that final pass or to get that shot away. And it was like, he should have just shot first time in some occasions. He should have just taken a touch and then shot. But every time he's maybe overthinking it, trying to take a little bit more time. And I think that's maybe weighing in on him a little bit. But I actually think that in terms of, apart from the goals and assists, which a lot of people are talking about, and the fact that he's only got, he's got no goals, 1 assist, and that was in the Community Shield. So I think that he has looked decent, but for £160 million, decent isn't great. I actually, because of the role Fernandes is playing, and yes, he's missed 2 penalties this season, but he's still got 2 goals. I actually, in this think-off, I had Fernandes first, I had Wirtz second, and I had Rodgers third. I haven't watched as much of Rodgers as I have Wirtz, because I've watched every Liverpool game, and I've seen a few Aston Villa games recently as well. But because they're struggling, it makes him look worse as well. So I wasn't quite sure. So I thought maybe that you might have gone Rodgers instead of Wirtz, or I wasn't actually quite sure what you're going to do, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't say I've watched too much of Villa this year. Probably their lack of goals maybe has put me off watching them a little bit. I would probably agree with you. I think I would go Wirtz as the bench. I think he's 6th or 7th in terms of shot creating actions per 90 in the league this season, Wirtz. So even though he's not getting those numbers for assists, his creativity has still been really good. And Rodgers and Watkins are both sort of the 2 players who have been sort of the scapegoats for Spurs, I suppose. For Villa. 2 players who performed really well in recent years and have really struggled at the start to this season. And maybe there's more expectation on players like Rodgers and Watkins to sort of carry Villa. And whilst they haven't, the team dropping as a whole is maybe more of an impact, whereas Wirtz can still rely on the better quality of players around him, I suppose. Even if he's not getting those numbers, Liverpool are playing really well, and Wirtz has started a lot of games, so he must be making an impact in some sense. So I would go Fernandes start, Wirtz bench, and yeah, I would agree with you with Rodgers and Sell.
Just that list without any context could cause absolute headlines. But yes, in context, I actually agree with you. I think that makes a lot of sense. Oh God, so it's me again then. So you've got something for me?
I have got an interesting category, I would say this one is. I have gone for goal-scoring, attacking midfielders / winger / can kind of play up front, hybrid, weird players who score lots of goals. And that is Matheus Cunha, Cole Palmer, and Omar Marmoush.
And are you asking me based on this season or them as players overall?
I'm asking you based on players overall as a whole, because Marmoush has had a really bad injury. Cunha has had... They've actually all had injuries that are pretty bad this season. So, yeah, overall.
Okay. Well, I'm immediately struggling because... honestly, I don't know. My instincts want to put Palmer first, right? And I'm not putting him first yet. I'm just as a start, but I'm just going to talk through it because I'm unsure. Because of the fact that he obviously had that fantastic season, his debut season. Last season was obviously he had that bit of a dip for the first half. I don't think he scored a goal for like 8 months or something. Obviously, he had this international break in the summer off in that as well. But I think in moments he can turn it on and show his quality. So I don't think it's a case of he's not a quality player. But I don't think he's necessarily a world-class player yet, because I think he needs to do it on a consistent basis throughout seasons. But he's the one where I'm like, he's a difference maker most commonly that I've noticed. But is it because of the fact that he's playing for Chelsea and everything's going to him? It was the same for Cunha at Wolves. But I wonder how much I'm trying to weigh into the fact that depending on where you played from, what level you do it at, has an impact. Because Cunha's looked not great at Man United, but it's Man United and the way they're playing at the moment. So initial primary thoughts before you give me some stats are start Palmer, bench Marmoush, and sell Cunha. I'm not even sure if I'm happy with any of those in the list, but did you have any thoughts on where you had them?
Yeah, Cole Palmer, I think, does seem to have the strongest case for best player. I mean, 55 goals and assists over the last 2 seasons, Premier League Young Player of the Season. Like you said, somebody who has really carried Chelsea. And I think, like you said, in terms of, yes, Chelsea have been struggling, but you look at the players in the Chelsea squad and they still are fantastic. And he is the one that still stands out and is noticeable when he's missing. And considering how young he is, that's no mean feat. Cunha and Marmoush are really similar players, actually, when you look at them statistically, especially. When you compare them both to wingers or midfielders in terms of stats, they're like top 5% in Europe in terms of goal scoring and shots. When you compare them to strikers, they're like top 5% in terms of creativity and passing and dribbling. So they both have a really, really well-rounded sort of attacking skill set, I would say. But maybe their impact is slightly less than Palmer, and maybe their natural ability is slightly less than Palmer as well, I would say. But they're both like really fun players, I would say as well, Cunha and Marmoush. They're two players who would just pick up the ball from 30 yards, beat three players, and then just smack it in the top corner, and they're really good moments players. And again, like you said with Palmer, somebody who's maybe not super consistent. I think Cunha and Marmoush are maybe two players as well who are not the most consistent players and can sometimes drift in and out of games. So I won't say what I've got in terms of Cunha and Marmoush. I'll let you have the final decision, and then I'll say mine.
Yeah, I think I am going to go Palmer 1, just because of the fact that I also of his age. I think he is a couple of years younger than both Cunha and Marmoush as well. And the fact that what he's already done, I think that just find his form, find his consistency, hopefully get a strike partner who's fit and starting week in, week out ahead of him. And then I think it is Palmer. And I think when you saw him go off against Man United, I think it was a groin injury that immediately, I think the mood shifted and everyone was like, yeah, okay, now you've got a chance of really going to Chelsea, even though they had 10 men. But now your main man's off the pitch as well. I'm going to go Palmer 1. And I'm going to stick with Marmoush 2 and Cunha 3, because I think, obviously, last season Cunha did phenomenally well, but he didn't massively overperform his XG. I want to see him. I want to see how he does in Man United this season. And it's tough because Man United aren't doing well at the moment. But when Marmoush is fit and playing, I can see him being a replacement for Haaland. I can see him play alongside Haaland. I can see him play either side of the wings and getting goals and assists. And it's different because it's Man City and they will so dominate most games of football this season, despite the fact that they're not necessarily playing the best. And maybe that helps Marmoush out more than Cunha. But I'm going to go Palmer first, Marmoush second, and Cunha third.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you on that. I think that's right. I think Marmoush and Cunha is close. I just think Marmoush is maybe a player who fits into more systems and maybe works better with the team around him. Whereas Cunha, I certainly could worry with him playing for like a top side, that maybe his impact is slightly lessened, and maybe that sort of link up with the team around him isn't as strong as somebody like Marmoush, who like you said, I think Man City have maybe missed a little bit at the start of this season. They've, without Haaland's goals, I don't know where they would be, because yeah, a lot of the players are, besides Haaland, aren't particularly scoring very well for Manchester City, and that's exactly why they signed him, to sort of be that support for him. So, yeah, I would agree with you on them.